Well, hello everyone. This was supposed to be a YouTube live, the one that I normally do every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But unfortunately, right before the live was supposed to start, apparently a cell tower went down. There is no data signal here. We're full-time RVers, and so when that kind of thing happens, we have no internet. I had no way of notifying you guys, and so I'm very sorry for not showing up. But I figured I would go ahead and answer some questions because when I posted about this live, I had some questions that people posted on our Facebook group, which you can go join, or on my YouTube community tab. So I'm going to take this time to go ahead and answer those questions, and I hope that next week it works out better. So just to let you know who I am, my name is Kayla Cox. I've lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting. I went from 222 down to like 140. Right now I'm maintaining between 140 and 145. I do, in order to lose the weight, I did intermittent fasting 6 days a week. I walk 6 miles a day, and I take a cheat day on Sunday. I am the author of the Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, and I also have Slow and Steady Success Academy, which has courses on how to lose weight successfully, and we also have a private Facebook group, members only, if you get a subscription to the Academy, and so that provides you with access to our Facebook group, which has a group coaching style Facebook Live every week where I'm doing the answering questions. So if you need more support than maybe you do find on YouTube, you can go check that out. And the link is in the description. So let's start off with the first question today, which is from Lima, and she's on our Facebook group, and she asked, could you please talk about sleep patterns after going OMAD? I'm waking up at night since I started OMAD a few days back. Now, my experience, and a lot of other people's experience with intermittent fasting, is that you tend to need less sleep. So I'm talking, there were periods of time when I was losing weight and I was on OMAD that I would get 5 hours of sleep, and I would wake up refreshed. I mean, sometimes it was ridiculously early in the morning. I'm talking, depending on what time I went to sleep, it would be 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And at first I was kind of worried by that. But what I started to do was just to wake up, like to get out of bed, not just lay there and try to go back to sleep, just get up, get out of bed and go start on my day. And if I found that I needed to go back to sleep, like, because sometimes that would happen too. But most of the time what would happen is I would just go on about my day, and I looked it up on Reddit just to see, because that's a good place to just kind of see what other people's experiences are sometimes. A lot of other people have that same experience. Now, if you're having trouble sleeping though, because this would occasionally happen to me, especially when I did go down to OMAD, because there was a period of time there where I was trying to figure out how much I needed to eat in order to not be overly full, but at the same time, not under eat either. Like, I wanted to be able to be good and full throughout, the rest of the basically 24 hours until my next meal. And so, that was a process of figuring that out. And if I ever found that I wasn't sleeping well, like, so in other words, I was having trouble going to sleep, or I found myself waking up a lot during the night, I always took that as a cue to eat more at my meal. If you find that OMAD just isn't working for you, like, just open your window back up so that you're eating twice. That usually helps people who are having trouble with OMAD. OMAD is not a magic bullet. It's what I enjoyed the most because I felt like it simplified my life. I got a lot accomplished. I just liked that eating pattern. So, but as far as weight loss, I was losing a pound a week, basically whether I was on OMAD or whether I was on like a 16-8, 18-6, 24. So, so I'd encourage you to just keep working with it and see where you find that sweet spot. So, okay. So Jessica Aspen, also in our, 6 Miles to Supper Facebook group, asked, have you ever heard of anyone else feeling warmer? The last time I lost a bunch of weight using traditional low-fat low calorie methods, I was freezing, and that stayed for years. But since I've been doing this, I'm super warm, and it's been really cold this winter. And that has been my experience too. Some people have had the opposite experience, though. I'll say that up front. Some people have asked me like, oh wait, I've started intermittent fasting and now I feel cold all the time. For me, that was not the case. When I was overweight, I was actually cold a lot. And as I started intermittent fasting, I started feeling warmer and warmer. Now, at the same time, I was being more active. I was, in the very, very beginning, I was trying to do like CrossFit, powerlifting, that kind of thing. And then by 2016, I just went down to walking. And so I have been more active. So I'm not sure, is it the exercise, just being more active and not sedentary anymore, or is it the intermittent fasting, or is it the weight loss? But yeah, so it's happened to me too. Thank you for that question, Jessica. Let's see. So Rachel Ramirez asks, do you have any tips for getting steps in? And I do. I have a lot of them actually, because I've been walking now really since 2016. I've been really consistent with my steps since then. I would say, in 2015, I was doing a good bit of, getting in steps too. But the first thing I would say is sneak them in at first if you need to. Like, get up and just walk around for 10 minutes inside your house. That way you don't have any excuses to not get some in. Usually about 10 minutes will get you about 1,000 steps. So if you just kind of do that throughout the day, you might be surprised at how many steps you can just sneak into your day. Some other things that really helped me, because in the beginning, walking was kind of boring, okay? It was like, it's not as exciting as powerlifting was, or CrossFit was, or Zumba. But one thing that I really liked to do was to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and just watch movies, watch TV shows, because man, even if you're walking 6 miles, you can pretty much like watch a movie and maybe one show and you're done with your steps. And so I enjoyed that. It just helped the time go by quicker. I would listen to podcasts. Sometimes I would like talk on the phone to my family. Talking on the phone isn't my thing, but maybe it's your thing, and it's a great time to get steps in. Or just texting back and forth with people. I would let myself be on social media during that time, which I would usually feel guilty about if I was just sitting down. But if I was standing up, walking around, I was like, hey, I'm getting my steps in, so I'm not going to feel guilty about this. So another thing I would say is start with a small goal and hit it consistently for like a week before you start bumping it up. What a lot of people try to do is they try to go from being sedentary to like getting 6 miles a day. And sometimes that's like too much of a change in your life. So if you've tried that and it's like, it just feels like too much of a time commitment, which I totally understand because it is a chunk of time. Try just getting, like say 5,000 steps in, or, something like that. Whatever you can start with. So start small and then work your way up. So I hope that helps. Melanie Skidmore asks, just wondering if you typically have dessert with your OMAD. I usually don't, but this week I'm not sure what happened, but I have been having desserts or sweets after my meal. I'm afraid to go on the scale now. I just need reassurance that it's possible to still lose or maintain while having a dessert after my meal. I'm going to try and cut down on my desserts again like I was before. Okay, so Melanie, that's a great question. I decided when I was trying to figure out how to lose weight, I decided that this time I was not going to have any forbidden foods at all. And in the process of doing that, when I finally allowed myself, I just started to tell myself, you can have as much as you want of whatever you want. Like, you really can. No guilt allowed, because I was sticking to my fasting is the thing. I was like, okay, I'm fasting during this part of the day, and then when it's my eating window, I can eat whatever I want. And psychologically, I think it's like a little switch flipped. And those things that I used to not be able to control and that just felt like, oh, I gotta have it, that felt so forbidden, I was like, it made it so that they didn't seem that tempting. And I would allow myself, like if we had chocolate cake, I would sit down and I would eat chocolate cake. Now, how often was I eating dessert? It kind of varies. It feels like sometimes we get into these routines where it's like, oh, there's more dessert. But nowadays, I would say pretty steadily, I have dessert maybe once or twice a week, but I never had a rule about it. Okay, so like some weeks maybe it was like 5 times a week, and then other times maybe it was like no times a week. Um, Over time, though, I found that as I really did give myself whatever I wanted, however much I wanted, no guilt, like no beating yourself up, like no saying, oh, well, you can have as much cake as you want. And if you sit there and eat 2 pieces, you can't then beat yourself up mentally about it and say, oh, I can't believe you ate 2 pieces of cake. It's like sometimes I'll eat 2 pieces of cake. A lot of times I'll stop at one because it's like, okay, that was enough. I'm always paying attention to being satisfied. Okay. And so because of that, it made things like now I can go into a grocery store and I'll be actively searching for something to eat that is sweet, like because we have date night or something like that, and I'm trying to find a dessert, and it's really hard for me to find something that really appeals to me a lot of times. That's not to say that I don't love certain like sweets, because I do, but they just have less power, or I have stopping power with them, I guess is the thing. I stop when I'm full. So my advice would be, well, here's another thing. You said cutting back. I always had a problem with that kind of like, if I said, I need to cut back on that, it's like kind of like this guilty thing, like, like I'm not really allowed to have dessert because I'm trying to lose weight. Like when I got rid of that notion, I just said, you know what, you've stuck to what you said you were going to do, which is fast for this, window of time. Then you can have dessert. So you may find that if you just allow yourself to have it whenever you want to have it, you'll end up wanting it less, if that makes sense. That's what a lot of people have found too. Not just me, but a lot of people have told me that exact same thing when they really said, okay, you can have whatever you want, guilt-free. It was like this little switch flipped in their brain. It's like, oh, like suddenly I have stopping power, and suddenly I don't really care about having these things all the time. Okay, Peter Bingston, I hope I pronounced that right, Peter, says, I have lost about 15 pounds since I started intermittent fasting. I've been doing OMAD for about a month now, but I seem to be stuck. My average calorie intake is 2,600, and I train with weights 2 times a week and also walk 15,000 steps a day. What is your advice for getting the scale to move again? So one thing I would ask you, Peter, is, and you obviously can't answer this, but the first thing I would want to know is, where are you with your BMI? Because it depends on where you are. If you are currently at a normal BMI or right above that line, the weight loss starts to creep along, in my experience and the experience of a lot of other people I've talked to. Like, once I got down to like 157 and then I decided to lose some more weight, it was 1/3 of a pound a week. So had I not been keeping track of my 7-day average and just being really, really patient with it, I probably would have thought that the scale wasn't really moving. But you said like for a month it's been kind of stuck. I would give it another probably 4 to 6 weeks before I would even call that a plateau. And just, take your time with it. Be really consistent right now. That's the main thing. A lot of times, like, there's this temptation to think, oh, well, this isn't working anymore. And then you like get inconsistent. Instead, like, double down on your consistency and just make sure you're being consistent every day, sticking to your plan. Don't really change anything. Just stick with it and see where it takes you. And that would be the first step I would take. So I hope that helps. All right, let's see. Nancy Levinson asked, what do you think about longer fasts, like 36, 48, or 72 hours? I think, well, here's what I'll say. I never did anything longer than a 24-hour fast. That's basically what OMAD is. I never really did anything longer than that when I was trying to lose weight. The reason for that was, in my life, anything longer than that really wouldn't fit, because I want to have one meal a day with my kids at least. And OMAD, for all its wonderful things, it is an odd way of eating. If you're with your family all day like I am, it's like you're missing out sometimes on other meals with your family. And so, if I were to go anything longer than OMAD, then it would be like there would be a whole day where I wasn't eating with my kids. And that's really important to me, to have that family dinner. So it wouldn't work for my life. I did do a 5-day fast, and that was back at the beginning of December. And when I did that 5-day fast, that was not for weight loss. That was like after I had already decided to maintain. I went ahead and did it then, even though it meant, missing five days of meals with my family, because I had heard about a lot of interesting cancer prevention, possible cancer prevention benefits from it, from a lot of different sources, and it intrigued me, and I thought, hey, it would be interesting. You never really know, did it work or not, I guess, but we have a lot of cancer in our family, so I figured, hey, it couldn't hurt, and I thought it would be an interesting kind of like spiritual thing too. So I did that one longer fast. As far as weight loss goes, though, here's my kind of like warning about that. During that 5-day fast, I had dropped, I think, 11, maybe 12 pounds. I think that's right. But I did videos about it, so you can go look at those. But all that weight came back. I mean, it all came back pretty quickly. I can't remember how long it took for the weight to come back, but I expected it to, because like it just made sense that, there's only so many calories that you're really burning each day. And my hesitation then with these longer fasts is that a lot of what you're losing is probably like, if you notice like, oh, well, I drop a good amount of weight when I do it this way, it's possibly water weight, which will cause possibly your fluctuations to be a lot bigger, which can be mentally hard, even though physically, I mean, I don't think there's any kind of danger there, not to my knowledge, but I like the idea of something you can do really, really consistently, as opposed to, you think a 36 hour or a longer fast is going to like jumpstart your weight loss. I just don't think that's going to happen. And had I done a 5-day fast for weight loss purposes, that would have been a huge emotional roller coaster, because I dropped, that weight and it went right back, and that would have been tough had I been actually trying to lose weight. So, so here's another question. M. Bervin10 says, and this is from our YouTube community tab, do you recommend taking a multivitamin? I only ask because I've tried logging my food into a chronometer for my one meal. I eat everything, no restrictions, and I'm always super deficient in vitamins and minerals for the day. Maybe a whole-based food multi would be good. I don't take one, but I always tell people, like, if you want to take one, take one. I'm not a doctor. I've not been tested for any kind of deficiencies. I don't think I have any deficiencies. I feel really good. I don't seem to be displaying any of those signs of any kind of deficiency. And that's always been the deal I have with myself. If like I start to feel bad, or I start to notice any weird symptoms, any kind of deficiency type symptoms, then I would treat it somehow, or start taking a multivitamin or something like that. I did some research into multivitamins. I used to take one all the time. I used to actually take a lot of vitamins, like a lot, but I stopped doing that because after I did some research on it, I was just not really convinced of their possible benefits. And so that's pretty much what I would say. So I would say if it's something you feel like you should do, then you should do that. Flossie Beach asked, does eating too few calories stall your weight loss and slow your metabolism? And do you naturally eat less as you get smaller? Okay, so does eating too few calories stall your weight loss? I don't know. I mean, there are people out there who kind of argue yes, and some argue no. Like there's this one guy, I can't think of his name, and Andre Barbieri, I think he was the guy that he weighed I can't remember how much he weighed, and he lost a lot of weight. He fasted for like over a year. I think that's right. It's been a while since I've looked at that story, but so in other words, he's getting no calories. I think he took maybe some supplements, but and he was fine. They tested him regularly for things. But, you know, the whole thing about slowing your metabolism, this is something I've read before, is when you lose weight, by definition, you do slow down your metabolism a bit because you're just not as heavy. I think that's right. Because, you know, if you've ever seen like one of those calculators where you can put in your weight and all that, it'll tell you like how many calories you just burn just by being alive, and that number goes down just as you get lighter. So, you know, like, does it? Yeah, probably it slows your metabolism a bit. So do you naturally eat less as you get smaller? I feel like I do eat less now. I mean, I certainly do. Yeah, I definitely do. I was certainly, when I was 222 pounds, even though at the moment I didn't feel like I was eating much food, I really felt like I was not overeating. With intermittent fasting, I started to see how often I was mindlessly eating, or just stress eating, or boredom eating, or all these different things. And I really started to see how all that food adds up. So, you know, like, I think everything, you're kind of just, you know, you're kind of hovering around the idea of, will intermittent fasting like slow down your metabolism? I don't think it has, in my experience at least. And I've been doing OMAD for a lot of that time that I was losing weight, and I don't feel like it slowed down my metabolism. I feel like I was talking about earlier, I feel warm all the time. And also, I, you know, I would say that it's, well, I don't want to say that it's better, but like right now I've been experimenting with a lot of different ways of eating. Like, I'm not just doing OMAD right now. Now that I'm maintaining, sometimes I'm eating 3 meals a day, and sometimes I'm eating 2 meals a day. And I'm not like regaining the weight. I'm still maintaining between 140 and 145. My thinking would be, if I had screwed up my metabolism, going back to this way of eating would be like, oh, it's just going to shoot right up. But those are just some thoughts. Christina6 asked, do you have other vlogs or a blog relating to your life and travels, etc.? I don't really have a blog. We do have a website called Cox Family Travels, and that's kind of about our RVing, our full-time RVing adventures. We also have a YouTube channel about it. We don't do a whole lot on there because we have this channel, which takes a lot more time, and Coffee, which is our other channel, also takes up some of our time too. So yes, that's where you can go check that out. You can also look me up on Instagram at Kayla M. Cox. I post some stuff on there about just life in general. It's just a personal Instagram account, so I post everything on there. Sometimes it's stuff about intermittent fasting, sometimes it's stuff about just my life in general. So you'll see all manner of things on there. Okay, let's see. Aki, I hope I pronounced that right. She said, can you suggest how many calories should I intake in OMAD? Is walking for 45 minutes a day sufficient for weight loss? Your videos have helped me a lot. Thank you very much. Love from India. Well, thank you. So when it comes to calories, I never counted them, especially by the time I went to OMAD, I was finished counting calories. I counted calories some in 2015, and it drove me crazy. I just felt so deprived. So I don't do that anymore. And I have no idea how many calories I'm eating. I will tell you this, it varies. I can certainly tell that, because there are some days I will eat and I can tell I didn't eat as many calories, you know, just by the basis of what is in front of me. But my suggestion is, or a lot of people can just do OMAD, no counting calories, and still have results. I wouldn't worry too much about it, basically. I would just sit down, don't be distracted while you're eating, don't have phones, don't have TV on, just sit down, eat your food, stop eating when you get good and full, and then, you know, don't eat again until your next meal. That's what I did. That's what worked for me. 45 minutes of walking, I think, is great, and I think that's plenty. I don't know that 6 miles of walking really helped me to lose any weight. I've talked to lots of people who are like, oh, well, I started, walking, all these steps and everything, but I'm not losing any weight. And I think that's really because the bigger part of the equation is your eating. That's the most important thing, to be really consistent with your eating plan. A lot of people have done intermittent fasting with no exercise at all and still had fantastic results. Some people can't exercise because physically they just can't. So don't worry too much about that. I think walking or any kind of exercise, but I love walking, is really important for your mood, keeping you in a good, positive place, feeling good and everything. If you are not feeling good, a lot of times that'll give you kind of this, like, if you're feeling down, then you maybe you will want to eat outside of your eating window, and you're maybe just kind of stressed or something like that, and that can lead to being off plan. So I would recommend do what you can, and 45 minutes of walking I think is great. Dry Wit Lass 10 says, does drinking a lot of water help with fasting, or is it easy to flush out too many electrolytes? That's a very interesting question, because a lot of people ask me, like, how much water do you drink? And I mean, it's one of those things, I just drink when I'm thirsty. Like, whenever I feel thirsty, like I kind of feel a little bit thirsty right now because I've been talking, but I don't have water goals. I don't try to, have like a gallon of water and drink that whole thing during the day. I don't do that. Like, sometimes I try to have a bottle of water with me, but I'm not consistent on that either. I just, like, if I feel thirsty, I get up and get some water. I get some tea, or I'll drink some coffee. I just don't really worry about it, basically. Thank you, Jay. The magic of having a husband right there next to me. So yeah, you bring up an interesting point, which is, if you drink too much water, will your electrolytes get out of balance? And that was, I think one of the things I had read about was, and this is what got me thinking. The article I read said, all the other animals out there in the world, and we're animals, but all the other animals, they just naturally know when to drink, and they go and they get a drink of water. And yet we're, like, making it so complicated. And even that whole thing about the 8 glasses of water a day, that wasn't even a recommendation, is my understanding. That was just, the guy studied how much do humans normally drink, and the 8 glasses of water was basically everything that you consumed, like all the water content in the food and in the drinks that you just naturally drink throughout the day. So I hope that answers your question. I just don't worry about it too much. I just drink whenever I feel thirsty. Okay. Zahida asks, does the walking make a difference? Again, I answered that a little bit before. I think the main thing it helps with is putting me in a really good mood. It helps me to de-stress, first of all. Like, if I've got something that I'm worried about, or that I'm just, like, thinking a lot about, getting up and going for a long walk usually will clear my head and put me in a good mood. So it's, like, almost impossible to be in a bad mood after you've walked 6 miles a day. So I think it does make a difference for those reasons. For the weight loss per se, like, as far as calorie burn, I don't think it's that important. But yeah, but for the mood, I think it's very important. Okay, whoops. Let's see here. Try to get this. Okay. The next question is, okay. My Rosie asked, I did some research, and the statistics show a negligible difference between intermittent fasting and eating the same amount of calories throughout the day. So why intermittent fasting? That's a great question. And this is something I think some people will disagree about this whole thing. I really feel like the way intermittent fasting works, the main way it works, is that it makes it so it's easier to eat fewer calories. Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure, based on, like, looking at what I eat, I do eat fewer calories now than I did when I just ate, 5-6 times a day when I was overweight. So, and another thing to add to that is, you know, if you look at all the different plans out there, they all work as long as you stick to them. And calorie restriction, you know, like when you just count calories, if you do that really faithfully, the problem I think with that is so many people will underestimate the amount of calories that they're intaking, and that's a tough thing too, because sometimes you can't be that accurate with it, you know, like you know, unless you've got a scale with you. And even like with meat and stuff, the fat content can vary, which can vary the calories. So I think that's the hard part about calorie counting, is that it's very hard to know how many you're burning, like how many calories you're actually burning, and then how many you're actually intaking. I think that's the thing that trips people up. I tried calorie counting and I found it very difficult, and like I said, it kind of drove me crazy. So so my personal opinion is I don't really think it makes that big of a difference, as far as like, you can lose weight on calorie, you know, restriction or calorie counting. You can lose weight on intermittent fasting. You can lose weight on keto. And again, I think a lot of times the magic behind it is it's cutting your calories, you know, especially with something like a high protein, low carb diet. It's a lot harder to eat more calories when you're eating protein. Like it just fills you up quicker. And if you've ever sat and ate just, you know, like cookies, right? Like it's easy to pound cookies, right? Like they just don't fill you up as fast. So I think you're right. I think that calorie restriction and intermittent fasting is kind of the same thing. It's just that intermittent fasting is the only thing that I've really ever tried where I could eat whatever I wanted and still lose weight and not have to like calculate things and all that. It was just a matter of like, just don't eat during this period of time during the day, and then do eat during this other period of time. So thank you for that question. So that is the end of the questions that I got before the live. And so again, I am so sorry that it didn't work out with the internet signal. I apologize again. Just sometimes things are out of your control completely. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, remember that you can go grab your all access pass to the Slow and Steady Success Academy. And with that, you get access to all the courses as they become available. I plan on releasing about a course a month. And you can also get into our private Facebook group, where I'm in there doing a weekly group coaching style Facebook Live. There's also accountability posts. So if you're trying to get your steps in, you're having trouble with that, and you need some people to keep you accountable, we're in there doing that. And with weight, checking in on those things too, if you feel comfortable. Those are all, you know, voluntary, but it's a good place to get around other people who are striving towards their goals and really serious about it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it helpful. If you're currently trying to lose weight and you're just having a hard time, check out my Slow and Steady Success Academy. There you'll find a course called Intermittent Fasting for Weight Loss 101, where I take you through the entire process from start to finish and how to implement intermittent fasting successfully in your life for weight loss. The link is in the description. The All Access Pass to Slow and Steady Success Academy is a monthly subscription plan that gets you access to every course that is currently available in this academy, as well as any that will become available in the future. Also, you'll get access to our private All Access Pass members only Facebook group.